Dash and Betsey by UC Hafso. You may have heard about the events of the 29th of December 2011, but not from me, for I have not spoken a word other than to authorities and in privacy. In writing this, I hope to come to terms with it, to close a chapter. It does not come lightly, nor easily, and I warn you about the very real, very graphic burdens that this incident carries. Nonetheless, now is the time to publicly recount, as a journalist of 23 years and a witness to events, to correct the misinformation around these events and to service awareness of this developing and tragic phenomenon that follows us as coastal people. 2011 was increasingly just like any other year of this millennium. Increasingly dangerous, increasingly worrying, flying by faster and faster. A tsunami devastated Japan. The Arab Spring exploded. An earthquake ruined Christchurch. It was a hectic year in a changing world. On my second last day as a career journalist, the city of Brisbane flooded, along with our ground floor offices on Elizabeth Street. 3 weeks later, I was retiring in Cremorne, Tasmania, close to my son, close to the ocean, and evidently much closer to my daughter-in-law, Dash. Dash had bought me a wetsuit for my birthday. She said that by the end of the year I would fall in love with surfing, that I would soon find home in the waters of Tasmania. I always hated wetsuits. In Queensland, we sported bikinis and speedos in the waves. We swam and bathed in warmer waters, where saltwater crocodiles and box jellyfish would lurk and linger. At times it was more tense than enjoyable. But we never get the cold as old and nasty, the water as eerie as it is on this southern isle. Dash was right. You need a weddy at any time of the year in Tasmania. I'd heard about Dash doing dawnies, getting up in the water at dawn, after 3 hours travelling, staying in for 6 hours, taking 30 minutes to replenish, and going back in for another 6. Once she said to me that it was not surfing that she loved, but that while surfing, she loved the world. She had surfed in the tropics of Indonesia, on faraway points in WA, and all up and down the east coast of Australia. She had surfed with dolphins and had photographs to prove it. A few times, I asked her about sharks. She was coy in response. She never ate flake. Perhaps she was ahead of her time. No doubt she discovered superstition in the ocean. The ocean was her clock. I came to understand that if she could dare take a wave from the ocean, that this world, her island, the sky, would allow her a safe and fulfilling passage through it for a time, and that should this luck run out, she'd discreetly become unnerved, frustrated, and in urgence seek a wager from the ocean on another wave. It seemed to work, and the closer I got to her, the more I could see it. Of course, there were problems in her life, but through these she wielded a passion, an energy, one versed over and over, thousands of kilometres, eons away, plunging and landing on the coasts of Tasmania, in her. She was almost evangelical in her encouragement to the unsurfed, like myself, whom she thought were missing out on a constant renewal of spirit, an offering from nature. Other times she was most secretive about surfing. Often my son would ring me asking if I knew where Dash was. He knew we were close. Most of the time I was right. She had been at Rebounds or Roaring Beach or somewhere up the east coast. I guess the secret was the sacred. It was a Sunday at noon when I met Dash in a wet Goats Bluff car park off South Arm Road. She had brought me here to teach me how to surf on a clean and easy beach break. I pulled up in between her red Mitsubishi Scorpion and a black panel van. Dash was already suiting up. She rubbed wax on my board and joked about keeping out of the way of the locals. "They'll knock you off your board. Mad Dog's down here." We passed signs on the beach, pictures of a person swimming, or were they drowning? Unpatrolled, dogs allowed. "Mad dogs allowed," said Dash in dry humour. "Watch out for the current and keep an eye on the sets. Can get some nasty sets here." There were no warnings for crocs or jellyfish. No warnings for sharks either. We walked down the winding path on the rocky shoulder of the bluff, barefoot in the sooty sand where jackjumpers battled head to head. An echidna hides in the coastal wattle and boobula. A Mario balloon floats in the sky, taken by a light breeze heading south towards Betsey Island. The beach is sublime, distinctly local in colour and absent of humanity, save a lone black dot in the water. The waves advance in harmony as beautiful shapes that peel off in each direction. They glitter green and gold and fizz towards the shore, sounding like tremendous applause, before sweeping the sand of the lower beach smooth and retreating back, an ocean breath, inhaling, exhaling. It's pure theatre, the oldest of romances. Dash clenches at her fist in the air and makes the surfers call, "You!" "She's on," she says, taking off into the salty goodness. I collect my thoughts and follow her in, awkward in my frustrations as I battle the surges of white water. Her instruction ends and the rest of my lesson is spent at the mercy of those southerly echoes, as they flee the distant enormity of the wild southern ocean, bringing with them a cyclic harmony, a hypnotic and tantalising ecstasy of danger and the salty chaotic remnants of worlds long gone. The waves there, known as wedge, meet and plunge in an A-frame shape, then break both ways, left or right for the surfer, east and west, parallel to the isthmus on which they land. They are made unique by the huge mass of volcanic rock that protrudes a kilometre out or so out to sea. It's known as Betsey Island. Betsey obstructs the waves. They wrap around it and meet again, arriving at the beach. The next landmass, directly south of Betsey, is frozen over by the frightful wilderness of the Antarctic ice sheet. Between here and there are the unfathomed depths of more than 2,500 kilometres of the Southern Ocean. We must be 80-odd metres out from the beach, past the breaks, and Dash waits for the surf to pick up. Here the water is even colder, particularly a foot or so down, where my feet float, exposed and numbing. Dash is at home offshore, floating in the deep on foam and fiberglass. I feel a little out of my depth, though I don't want to admit it to her, for I don't want to ruin the fun, and I desire her esteem. Certainly I do not entertain myself with any notions of fright, for terror lurks deep in the sea of the mind. We face south and look out over Betsey Island, at its sharp volcanic cliffs, tall gums and dry fields of sun-browned grass. I remember a kelp gull hovering in the breeze above us. Halfway across the water to Betsey are the Blackjack Rocks, a reef known to cause trouble. Dash points out to where an Incat catamaran had run aground. She says that the area is great for scuba diving because of all the scrap ships that are sunk there and all the fish that swim amidst them. She says that there are ruins on Betsey, a graveyard, a hermitage, boxthorns, rabbits, and a unique type of tiger snake with bright yellow stripes. The island was once used to breed rabbits for the fur trade in China. She says that the island was known by other names: Temeteleta, Lady Nelson, and Willie Almaz. She says the rocks of the reef were created by Ranger Rapper, and that if the Aboriginals could swim there in wooden canoes, or with just arms and legs, that we could make it on the boards, easily if we caught the current. She could take me. We could spend the day there looking for gold or for the tiger snake with the bright yellow stripes. It seems that she's in the grips of another daredream, that she might just start paddling for the island. Then, a large set of waves appears on the horizon. "You!" she shouts. The first wave cruises under us like a fluid haunt, lifting us a metre or two onto its shoulder. On the second wave, Dash turns, paddles, and stands up with ease. She looks wild and free, flying on her board down the wave's face. I can see her head running along behind the lip of the wave before the monster closes out. She cries out, "You!" and her board bobs up, about in the white water. Smiling, I turn and there meet, like a skit from the moon, the silent and growing face of a third wave. It dumps on my head and casts me down, directionless in its swallow. Nothing is of any worth in that drawn-out oblivion of seconds but the muzzling of my deepest impulse to reach for a breath of fresh air. My leg rope pulls hard on my ankle. Submitting to the power, I'm spared and thrown up somewhere beneath the blue sky. On the surface, I panic and turn again to see the quiet lip of yet another wave peaking, pounding and dumping. Underwater it roars and burbles, and I settle with it into near silence until surfacing again. I abandon my leg rope and head straight for the beach, copping the remnants of the following waves on the way. A lost graveyard? Ruins? A tiger snake with bright yellow stripes unlike anything else? Dash is the mad dog, and I'm now just a washed up middle-aged woman, defeated by the surf, trying not to shake like a baby. Branded unlucky, not welcome, a loser. This surfing is not for me. I would have had better luck with fishing or at the casino. I had better be careful after such an unfavourable episode in these determinate and sanctified waters. Was it something to do with me being a foreigner? I didn't feel at home on that beach. Maybe I'd have to try again to win the ocean's favour. Dash was a character. She was a woman of truth and dare, and myth. Which were her truths, her dares, and which were her myths, I sometimes couldn't tell. The local knowledge she held, the facts on the ground, the history, it seemed to waver off into the folklore of her imagination. Anything serious, she said, would end in a gaze to the ocean, or a gaze to where the ocean lay beyond, a gaze out the window or to the weather forecast, an imaginative look at the floor, a pinch of her nose, a wild glaze of my eyes. She let the surf do what it wanted with her person. The surfer was the woman. The local was the myth. She had the minor celebrity that local surfers have. A face in the crowd of seals. A bright green board. A menace and a hero in a host of stories. A friend of a friend in a lone shark. A gap in her smile when she dropped her false front teeth for a joke. Mad dog, she'd say about anything. Shipstern's Bluff. Mad dog. Barack Obama. Mad dog. The hermit on Betsey Island. A mad dog. Alone on the beach, I eat a warm banana and dig my feet into the warm sand. There must be 20-odd surfers in the water at this point, since the surf has grown. Some of them are in the shallows, huddled together, apparently arguing about something, but I can't hear. The wind has shifted northerly, offshore, and a large grey cloud drops a vast shadow, turning the bay and its oceanic horizons a dark blue. It brings the whistles of pine and grass and sand and orchestrates a neat ululation. The waves mould into perfect arcing shapes. Before their thunderous crashes are intriguing tranquillities. Above, the kelp gull carries on, hovering over. Dash, who sits past the break, gazing south to Betsey Island and beyond, waiting for a dare from the ocean. Leaving my wetsuit and board and the ruined end of my banana, I walk down to the water to get a closer look at the whole scene. Dash takes off east on a wave, double her height. She crouches down and disappears into a magnificent barrel. Then she appears in a perfect moment, blown out at speed from the bubbly boom, turning and cutting scribbles on the wave's face. The kelp gull follows, swooping low, almost mimicking Dash's movements. She waves, leaps off the ride and catches the white water in towards me. My memory of those moments has since been devastated by dissociative amnesia. It has taken a decade of hospitalisation, assessments, medication, counselling, therapy and rehabilitation to work through the trauma. In that time I have lost contact with those I was once closest to. During litigation, many of my relationships were severed overnight because of rumour mongering, because of lies about my relationship with Dash, because of assumptions about what I did and didn't do on that day. I battled wave after wave of media misinformation. Testimonies claimed that I had been on my phone while the incident happened, that I evaded the surfers on the beach, that I drove off calmly from the car park. The simple truth is that the facts of these events were best witnessed by me, and the fact remains that I too was, and still am, a victim of this most distressing day. Through it all, I remember the advice of Dash. Don't fight it. Go with the flow. I was wading out to Dash, who was no more than 20 metres away, when she disappeared under the water for a few seconds, then surfaced, yelling and clambering at her board. She stood up, chest high in the water, and bellowed again. But I couldn't hear over the surf. I thought she was joking until I saw her head, so white and her eyes so big. She was panicking in the water, flailing about. Then I saw it. The tail of a mighty creature came glistening into the sunlight like a murderer's knife. It slapped and jolted at ferocious speed and turned the water into a wrathful mist. Dash's yell turned to a dismayed and shocking shrill as she began swinging her arms at the water, turning in circles and striding as best she could away from the threat. She appeared to have escaped when, again, she bellowed, waving her arms. Falling and rising and falling again under the water, She was then tossed into the air like a gag. The water had become a hell. The scene was horribly wrong. I made way to the frenzy, not knowing what horror may emerge at any second, and prepared to risk my life for Dash. Out of the white water broke a large white-pointed shark. It contorted and writhed, a dreadful mass of teeth, gum, and a godless eye through which the deep, mysterious will of the ocean enacted its final moment, its final hand of luck on Dash. The teeth of the shark went through a wetsuit, through her flesh. There was a noise like the crushing of shells on the shore. The white water turned red and the mist above was pink as the shark danced and Dash screamed. The final song of a mad dog, at home in the grotesque waters of her island world. That afternoon, having fallen into a new world, I remember clear as day that it rained and rained. I remember the sounds of gulls, clear, free, ranging over the salt waters of the Derwent estuary. I closed my eyes, and all I could see was Betsey Island, her volcanic cliffs, her tall gums, and the stony grey beach which faced north.